Welcome, everyone. It's the Crypto Lark. I'm very excited to have on today Mr. Kristof. How's it going, man?
It's going wonderful.
Now, we're going to be talking about all kinds of fun stuff today, from markets and IEOs, mining scams, all that fun kind of stuff you guys like to talk about. And we're going to have a great time. So let's just jump straight into it, and let's get your thoughts. What's going on in the markets, man?
Oh gosh. Well, I think the biggest conversation right now in the markets is that $100 million spent on those three exchanges, Coinbase, Kraken, and Bitstamp. I'm having a hard time. And actually, Sunny Decree did a video on. Now, was it Sunny Decree? I think it was Sunny Decree. He did it on the fact that it happened when North America and Europe was asleep, right, and only Asia was awake. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with 100 million. I don't know if that 100 million is the actual catalyst, or was that just coincidence? You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
anytime you see something happen, especially in the past 1 year with cryptocurrency, anything that's happened that dramatic, 2 days, 3 days, or a week later, something comes out like a coin's be listed on Coinbase, or a new financial product is coming out on Wall Street to support Bitcoin. I'm just wait. I don't know. My brain has got conspiracy overload with this $100 million in cryptocurrency, and I'm just waiting for that one piece of information that comes out that says fact is going to come out next month. You know,
Yeah.
CBOE decides to go from paper to actual physical custody. Because they dropped their futures product. I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. There's something about this. I feel like we're going to have a pretty maybe a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, maybe. And look, you just never know. Maybe I was speculating about who it could have been yesterday, right? And obviously, one phone call to Fidelity, for example. Obviously, like I said, it happened at the wrong time for that. But just to speculate, one phone call to Fidelity from one hedge fund manager could easily move $100 million. Like, that's not like, for these people, this is not a big amount of money. I mean, it's, big enough, but that's a phone call for them, and they transfer $100 million and they buy Bitcoin, and that's done, and they do it with Fidelity. But I was also speculating it could have just been some random dude, like we try to look for things that maybe aren't even there sometimes, just because like there's got to be a bigger story behind this. But like, could you just imagine just one Japanese billionaire dude, and he's just like, you know what, I'm gonna buy $100 million of Bitcoin today, and he just does
Yeah,
it.
I can actually picture some Fortnite champion of the world. There's that $100 million from ad revenue just sitting around. You know what? What am I gonna do today? I'm gonna go buy some Bitcoin. I know I can't have fun on Fortnite anymore. It's boring. Let me go have fun with the crypto community. I could see somebody like that right now, just laughing at all this. I mean, when this comes out, maybe they'll watch and laugh at us. Maybe they'll comment, say, "Hey, it was me."
See, my video yesterday, people were like, "Oh, it's me, Lark. Oh, it's me." Like, I know it was all of you guys. I know. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It is.
It is.
It's amazing to see
You
though
know,
how quickly the market moves too, just on $100 million order. I mean, you think about that, because that a report came out the other day that there's 95% of the exchange and unregulated exchanges is inauthentic, and there's only about 270 to $300 million a day of actual Bitcoin to dollar volume. So really
well,
shows
here's
it.
here's a here's a question that one of my viewers actually brought up, and it's a legitimate question. So, $100 million was spent on three exchanges. What happens when that same person decides, all right, I made 20% of my money. I'm going to sell that same amount of Bitcoin
Hmm.
for 20% increase in my money. How would the market react to that? That is what I'm curious about.
It's a really good question. It is, because there's two things that come into play. One, if we're assuming the same market conditions as a couple days ago, then the market would crash hard, potentially, right? Somebody's market selling $100 million of Bitcoin. The second is that the market conditions today are not the same as they were a couple of days ago. This event has caused a certain extent, anyway, of retail FOMO, with a lot of stories, a lot of people saying like, "Hey, I just had somebody contact me on Facebook." I've had so many of these comments in the past couple of days. Like, I had three friends comment on Facebook today, like, "Hey man, that Bitcoin thing, you still into that? I want to know how to buy some." So that could create a new level of financial support in terms of buying. So $100 million market sell would still affect the markets, but it may not affect the markets as much as it would have a couple of days ago. So, and then a couple of days, the story might be very different again. So,
Well, I mean, right now I'm looking at the market cap. We're at 180 billion. So I guess you might be right. We might have created a good enough buffer to where that might sting a little bit. But I think maybe FOMO would still rule in that situation, because I mean, An hour ago, we're at 5,039. Right now, we're at 5,139. I'm actually surprised we're already above 5,000 and trading above 5,000. I'm actually pretty surprised about that
It's
right
pretty
now.
awesome. The question is obviously, can we maintain that? I know it's crazy. There's still bears who are calling for, $1,000 Bitcoin, $1,200 Bitcoin, and stuff like that. And look, I could easily see us moving back down and retesting the 3,000s even. I mean, look, it's not like we've hit some amazing strong level of support at our current levels. I feel like a lot of it right now is this kind of high riding expectation on speculation, right? If we are going to see a correction, we could even see a correction right back down to that 41 or 4,000 levels, which were just a week ago were very difficult for us to cross over. Now we've had this exponential breakout, but to see the mid 3,000s come into play at some point over the year, that wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying that's where it's going to go, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen either.
Well, here's another thing. So before the market did what it did, just even a few days ago, the lowest Bitcoin could actually be before the network was affected was $3,100. $3,100. Anything below that, Chinese miners start turning off. What a lot of people don't understand about miners in our network, mega farms, really big farms, they're not owned by, Bitmain or one or two people. They're owned by an investment group. These investment groups, majority of them are really acclimated in investing in traditional stocks in the traditional world. Anytime you fall into the red, their immediate reaction is get us out. Now there's no, well, maybe Bitcoin will come back up, or no, there's no, the cycle Bitcoin does this. There's no forgiveness. There's really no forgiveness. And trust me, I know, I deal with these people. So if we fell below production cost at any point, that could be disastrous for your mega mining farms. Therefore, I don't think that would ever happen. So now where we're at now, we got 5,100. Mining difficulty, the adjustment was up at 2%. It looks like we were forecasted about 5% in about 9 days or so. With mining difficulty going up the way it is right now, let's just say 3,200 is the lowest we can go. You know what I mean? 3,300 is actually a safer cushion. I just don't see us ever falling below those production costs. That's why whenever someone says, "Oh, we're gonna hit $1,000," I'm like, so how will the network survive? How would the mining community, the backbone of the Bitcoin network, survive? And who do you think would actually would allow that to happen? And it's like no one ever has an answer for that. But everyone keeps looking at the way the price of Bitcoin moves. They keep looking at it as if they're watching Wall Street, NASDAQ, the S&P 500. You have more variables and more elements with Bitcoin, blockchain, the whole. You have to look at the entire ecosystem whenever you do your TA with price, and a lot of people just don't understand that. It makes me just.
Those macro factors are really important, and a thing to keep in mind too is just like we saw a couple days ago, $100 million moved the market. I mean, $100 million moving Wall Street. Not so much, right? This is the thing. That's like those guys eat $100 million for breakfast and then forget about it. That's the kind of money we're talking about here. So we're in a very much smaller market too. But by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, Kristof's got an amazing mining farm. So he's right into mining. He's definitely an expert on the topic. So can you just tell us a little bit about, your mining farm, and are your production costs the same production costs as the guys over in China?
Interesting question. Okay. So I have a 2,500 amp mining farm, meaning I have 2,500 amps of available electricity, which means I can run right about 500 Antminer S9s, maybe about 100 less of the S15s. I'll find out here when I get them. Currently, I have 136 of them running. I have 80 more coming in. And it's, so as far as production cost goes, I mine in America. The average cost for electricity in America is 7 cents. China pays about 3 to 4 cents per kilowatt hour, right? I was fortunate enough because of how big, let me back for it. When I built this mining farm, I went ahead and had all the money I needed invested into it to build it to what you would consider a commercial business. I have commercial grade power. I have $100,000 disconnect, a 2,500 amp disconnect in the very back of this place that sings this horrible tune that makes you feel like you touch it, you're gonna die. I got a 4,000 amp transformer in the back just in case I need more power, you know? So I set it up to where I was on commercial rates. So commercial rates are actually lower than what industrial rates or residential rates are. I actually pay 5 cents per kilowatt hour. But I do have one catch. I have to pay something called a demand charge. A demand charge is where they want to measure what your power demands are, typically every 15 minutes. So if I'm using more power 15 minutes from now than I am currently, I have to pay a demand charge on that additional power, which can be really expensive. So the trick is to make sure that my mining farm never, ever, ever turns off. Because every time they turn off and turn back on, these machines power up to full throttle when they restart them, and it uses more power than it needs for startup. That can actually kill you. I actually had a demand charge one month of $1,250.
What?
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. The team was not happy about that, but it's I keep it profitable. I only had 2 months where I wasn't profitable. December and January, and that's because of where the price so dramatically fell right when our power bill was actually due, you know. So we actually had zero profit. We actually had just enough to pay the power bill, no profit. But we've been profitable every month except for December and January, and that's just recently. So I mean, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. But you know, when you get involved with mining, you look at cryptocurrency so much different because I have so much skin in the game. And if the market reacts, if we have a bear market, I cannot look at that in any sort of panic. I have to look for the opportunity in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
The bear market came, everything for mining became cheap. So I bought more stuff. I upgraded the mining farm. So whenever a bull market comes, I can just keep adding more miners. I don't have to buy any more equipment. Everything's cheap. You know, I made it to a sustain. I made it to where I am prepared for any sort of bull market that comes in, which is a good thing. It was just hard to get there. People thought I was crazy, by the way. You have no idea how many friends of mine were like, "What is this stuff? Why don't you just build a server farm? What is this Bitcoin? You can't even. It's not even real money. You're spending real money for fake money. What's wrong with you?" I'm like, God, you have no idea the crap.
When the real situation is you're spending fake money for real money.
Right? Exactly. Try to explain that to most people. Like, I had to get a bank account. This is a funny story. I have to get a bank account because I have to pay the utilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to keep everything under a business entity, otherwise taxes will just destroy you. So convincing a bank to give me a bank account that's going to be tied to a cryptocurrency business. Mind you, we don't even sell on the exchanges because it's just, you know, most miners won't sell on an exchange because it's actually kind of unethical, you know, because you're just constantly pushing the price down. You sell to brokers, you sell to ATM brokers, you sell to OTC brokers, right? So, you know, it's like it's not like we're going to the exchanges and having exchanges interact with bank account. They're like, no, we can't do this. We don't accept Bitcoin. No, I don't want to give you Bitcoin. I want to give you cash. But it's a mining business, you know. They have no idea. The bankers actually came here. They wanted to see this. Their brains couldn't register this. It was like a bad dream for them, I guess, you know.
Somebody else is printing money.
Yeah. I'm taking over. But they had to come here and they actually had to see this with their own eyes and to show the infrastructure behind the network, and it started to make sense. So actually what it took for a bank account to get open. But yeah, it's you know, doing this it's really eye-opening, and you look at the whole market differently. I even look at investors differently. Investors, retail investors, no offense, sometimes really can burn some amps up here because it's just like, what? Why? No, don't think that. It's not true, you know?
Hey, I got a question for you. The halvening's coming up. So in a little more than a year, your daily profits are going to immediately be cut by 50%. Is that worrying you currently, or are you kind of thinking that's a obviously price event and all this stuff? What's your thoughts on it?
Up until about 28 hours ago, I was worried. Price of Bitcoin has got to be at a minimum, and you have to factoring in difficulty. factoring in the possibility of utility rates going up, Bitcoin has to be a minimum of $7,500 to $8,000 for miners to be profitable May of next year. It could be a little less than that, but I would rather work with worst case scenario. Before all this happened, I won't lie, I was a little concerned, because all our previous happening events were the whole dynamic, the whole structure, and how the world saw Bitcoin was entirely different. The way they see it now, and with futures contracts in there, with institutional products coming in, there's so many variables that we have now that we didn't have before that can completely affect the outcome of the happening. A small part of me is still very concerned, because as looking at the price, think about this. If we were to move up to say $10,000, that's newsworthy. That's very, very newsworthy. That is going to catch a lot of attention. That's going to make a lot of people want to come in. Even people who even doubted Bitcoin, they see a $10,000 Bitcoin, it's exciting. With excitement comes those who want to leverage it, you know? So we still got the CME in the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it does worry me just a little bit. But I'm hoping things like Fidelity Digital Assets and Bakkt, we still are yet to see Bakkt really come out and do anything, but I'm hoping with those physical custody settlement platforms, I'm hoping it'll help offset this paper derivative garbage that really it's detrimental to our ecosystem. It's just, I don't understand why they think it's well, I can actually, let me rephrase that. I know why, it's money.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it has a lot. I think it has a shelf life, because it works well with gold, works well with silver, and things like that. But you can't spend those. Those are true stores of value. You can spend Bitcoin. So on a long enough timeline, tell me how that's going to work. You know, I never get the answer. I've actually talked to traders about this.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and obviously everything's just changing at such a massive rate right now. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier in this conversation, that you have to take these macro things into account, because you see what Bakkt's doing, you see what Fidelity's doing, and all these giant players and all this money coming into the markets right now. So it's changing constantly, and it's building constantly. This is the thing, is even through this rough period in the market, look at what was built. It's insane. And when I look at someone like Bakkt, you know, they've got all these regulatory problems with the SEC and stuff and the CFTC, but they're doing it. They're not dissuaded. They didn't go, oh, well, we're having a bit of a hard time with regulatory, you know, hurdles here, so we're just going to stop doing everything. They're saying, no, we're going to keep doing it, because they see, for them, this is such a big money opportunity. I mean, they run the biggest stock exchange in the world. When the Bitcoin ETF goes live on the New York Stock Exchange, Bakkt is going to make so much money. It's going to be ludicrous. And then they're going to do payment processing and all the rest of the stuff. So the big money's getting in. The big money knows what's going on. They see the potential of this technology.
A buddy of mine, he and I had a conversation yesterday, and what he does for a living is he trades commodities, oil and goods and foods, and he sits on a trading desk. That's his life. So he called me up. We had a conversation about an entity trying to create the world's first actual bank for cryptocurrencies, like, you know, completely licensed, all 9 yards. That's not the exciting part. The exciting part was I had the opportunity to talk to him and the team involved with that. These are all bankers. All these guys are securities guys, familiar with trading. And there's so many dynamics I didn't really think about. See, for a while, I used to think like the ETF and all these institutional products would work against Bitcoin, right? Now, there's still a chance it could. That's why I'm treating this cautiously optimistic. But the emotional side of me is going to grab onto what they're saying yesterday about, if you think about Fidelity, right? The average investment from one of their institutional and accredited investors on there, as far as like portfolios go, you're looking at an average of nearly $100,000. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the kind of portfolios they manage. So if you take Fido and you take all of their investors to buy Bitcoin, there's not enough Bitcoin for all of them to have one. So when you hear that, and then they talk about this and they acknowledge this fact, and they also tell you that, listen, if you look at the institutional level, ICOs and all these STOs, IEOs, all the other Altcoins don't matter to them. What matters to them is what do their clients want, and the clients want Bitcoin. Ethereum is also something else as part of the conversation. So they're not planning for, the same things we're planning for. They're like, okay, this exists now. How can we bring this to our clients and make money? And when you hear those conversations, I mean, it's very exciting, the potential. It really is, because there's just not enough Bitcoin for all of these guys to have one.
And that's just one company. That's just Fidelity. That's the thing to keep in mind. All these other companies are doing stuff too, but there's not enough Bitcoin to satisfy the demand of just one company. And look, Fidelity is one of the world's biggest asset managers, but it's just one company. And that's something that's mind boggling when you actually start to think about it. And I talked to someone who's really close to the guys at Fidelity, and they said that this year they're pushing so hard on it. They're doing big training sessions with their sales staff and stuff like this, so that they want to get that out there. They want to get these products in the hands of their customers, and the customers want it. And so by the end of the year, the plan is from Fidelity is to be accessible to all their customers across the U.S. I mean, it's massive. It's absolutely massive.
And I think, and I was one of those. I was kind of guilty. I kind of took for granted the power of having an institutional backing behind Bitcoin and actually understanding where their mindset's at. Their goal isn't to try to do what we in the crypto community are always trying to do. We're always looking for something in the future to be better, something in the future to be different, something to have better technology. And here's the thing a lot of people don't think about. If investors cared about technology, if the tech was that important, Bitcoin would be dead last. Even the crappiest language, even the crappiest cryptocurrencies out there technically do in some ways have better tech than Bitcoin, but no one cares about that. They care about profits, and that's where these guys are looking at Bitcoin. It exists now, people like it, people want it, let's give it to them. So I mean, it's really exciting. I don't know, I think 2019 is gonna be an different animal, and I think too many people are living in the 2017 model right now. I think people are looking too far back and missing out what's coming up ahead of you.
Yeah, that's it.
Earlier.
And having Bitcoin is coming up ahead of us, and like we said, there'll be other assets that come on board, Ethereum, and I'm sure in a few years' time we'll actually see a diversity of different cryptocurrencies being traded by Fidelity and other big players like that. But Bitcoin's going to remain the big one. And this is the thing, is that it's proven itself. It has the history. It has the name recognition. It has the fiat on-ramps. It has so much more going for it on a structural level than other cryptocurrencies. Just because it doesn't do as many transactions per second, it doesn't necessarily need to. And this is one of the things. Maybe we'll see that hyper Bitcoinization reached at some point in the future where, everyone in the world's using Bitcoin as money, but let's assume that doesn't happen, and everyone in the world is simply holding Bitcoin as this kind of digital gold. Countries are holding it as digital gold, and major asset funds and hedge funds and all these people are holding it as, digital gold, essentially. That's also a very strong possibility.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. This is where I love getting in debates with the Bitcoin Cash guys. It's one of my favorite debates, actually, because the argument never changes. It's always the same argument. You know what I mean? The argument is limited to, well, the block sizes aren't big enough. There's a limit to the transactions per second. And Bitcoin is not following Satoshi's white paper of being peer-to-peer. That's it. That's the two arguments. That's it. That's the biggest argument. But if you think about it right now, okay, so Bitcoin, while it may be slow, people keep looking at Bitcoin as if people are going to use Bitcoin to transact millions of dollars every single day. If you go and look at a banking register and see exactly what the daily transactions are for all the banks around the world, those transactions are not hundreds of millions of dollars as far as quantity. I mean, there's a very small portion of them that's really that big. And then they have to use slow systems anyway, such as Swift. You know what I mean? They're using slow systems anyways. The only thing that matters is those smaller transactions. Can you make those smaller transactions faster? And with Bitcoin, with second layer solutions, it's easily achievable. It's very easily achievable utilizing second layer solutions. I mean, if you wanted to transact, if it became something that people wanted to transact, it wouldn't be hard. It really wouldn't. But I think truthfully speaking, because of the 21 million total supply, roughly 4 million being lost, and the fact that people understand things of scarcity have a lot of value. I do feel like Bitcoin might run into becoming being gold, just because of how scarce it is. Who knows? By the time you mine all 21 million, maybe 10 million will be lost.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing. We're only going to continue losing Bitcoin. It's got a continual attrition rate. And
Let me ask you a question. How much Bitcoin have you lost since you've been in cryptocurrency?
not very much. I've been lucky. I lost a little bit on what the fuck's that? What's local bitcoins? Right. I lost a little bit on local bitcoins one time. It's like a third of a Bitcoin back in the day, and just I don't know. I don't think much else though. Maybe like some dust on some wallets, but that dust adds up over time.
I've lost 3.
Oh,
I don't want to tell you how, but I lost 3 Bitcoin. I'll never get it back. But I just listen to say, if you take everybody who's in our space and ask them, how much Bitcoin have you lost since you first got into it? Everybody has lost some fraction of Bitcoin.
That's right.
And you're never going to stop. I'm sure, as careful as I am, at some point again, I'm going to lose some fraction of Bitcoin. I mean, think about this, like on exchanges, you leave your dust sitting there all the time. Forget about it, So there's lost coins right there. So I mean, it's a never ending cycle of lost coins.
Yeah, that's right. And then, like you said, in a few years, we're going to be even more and more and more. Right. So it continues to happen, and it will continue to happen. Especially, I think in these early days, maybe in 10 years, we'll have much better solutions in terms of making sure people are safe with their Bitcoin. But right now, it's not as bad as it was 5 years ago when people were just throwing away laptops with Bitcoin in them and stuff like that. But
could you imagine the feeling, what that feels like to know that you might have had a laptop or an external hard drive somewhere, and you had 100 or 500 or 1,000 Bitcoins just gone, lost in a recycling bin somewhere?
it's harsh. That's harsh. You would just never live that down, would you?
No. Oh God, no. I just imagine. No. Oh man, that'd be terrible. I mean, I've lost money in my life. I've lost several $1,000s in my life, but it doesn't seem to haunt me like losing the Bitcoin. It's just Bitcoin.
No, losing I don't know, some paper money. It's like that kind of sucks. But like losing Bitcoin, it's like no, because with the paper money they'll just print more. With the Bitcoin, it's gone forever. That's the real thing.
Paper money. Let's talk about paper money for a second, because that's always like talking with bankers. That's always an interesting one, because if you talk to a banker about, okay, here's Bitcoin, okay, you can actually track how much it costs to produce Bitcoin, right? The whole infrastructure is trackable, and you can't manipulate it. You can't make more than what there is, right? You can't fudge the numbers. I mean, there's a ledger, there's a distributed ledger. I mean, it's detailed, it's beautiful, it's perfect. It's what dollars used to be when we had the gold standard, because you had to, right? Because we had to have accountability. But now we're on the trust system. And then we have this thing called quantitative easing. So explain, I love this one. You get a banker, someone who's diehard, Bitcoin's this, I want to see my presidents on my money kind of conversations. You always ask the question, so tell me, what is the actual $1 truly worth right now? And when you have that conversation, you can even take it a step farther. If you look at stable coins, this is why I'm really baffled with stable coins. I'm really lost. I will admittedly tell you, I don't understand how it works, because what happens if we have an economic crisis tomorrow and the US dollar crashes? What happened? I mean, how could your coin be stable? And we have Forex exchange. We have people who trade currencies. The US dollar fluctuates in value every single day. For some reason, I think at Tether, which I'm looking at right now, it's holding steady. So what's it backed up by? You know what I mean?
Well, Tether is backed up by hopes and wishes, but the thing is I think actually the word stablecoin is probably a bad term for them. We should use like fiat pegged coins or something like this, because you're absolutely right, is that the fiat itself that underlies it, that we hope somebody somewhere actually has sitting in a bank account. And we've got different stablecoin projects that are trying to increase the transparency of all this. Like the guys from Universal Protocol are going to do like time stamps. So like when you get your stablecoin, you can actually look at the coin and see where the bank is, when it was deposited, et cetera, et cetera. That information will be available on the blockchain, which is definitely an increase over what Tether's doing. But yeah, this is the thing. Look at how much the purchasing power of the dollar's gone down over time, and there's forex markets, and they're constantly changing too. So obviously, it's about pegging into your local currency. If you're in the eurozone, well, then you want to be into euros. If you're in the U.S., you want to be into dollars, or like most people want to be into dollars for its global reach. But you're absolutely right. These are not stable. They're imaginary money by bankers, and all it takes is one economic crisis. And gosh, I feel like the U.S. is just hurtling down this track. It's like this runaway train and the bridge is out, and they just keep going and saying, that's okay, just throw more money into the fire. If we can go fast enough, we'll get over the ravine. But that's not what's going to happen.
All right. So I mean, you're from the U.S., right?
Yeah, I grew up in the U.S. Yeah, long time ago. But yeah.
Okay, so I'll make sure, because you'll completely understand this in the U.S. In the U.S., the debt starts from the bottom and goes literally all the way to the top. So when I say the bottom, every citizen of the United States has debt. I can't remember the actual number right now. It always fluctuates, but it's never a little bit. It's always a lot of money. I think one report's like $60,000 is the average debt for the U.S. household. So you have the U.S. household that has debt. Then you have your city government that has debt. Then you have your state government that has debt. And then you have your federal government that has debt. It's a perpetual cycle of debt. And the only solution to ease this debt is to create more debt and print more money. And we're at a point right now where printing more money is actually putting our currency at a teetering point. So the only other solution is, hey, China, or hey, Japan, or somebody, you want to buy some of this debt? You know what I mean? And then this is the best part. We have currencies coming in to buy our debt. But then those currencies are also way overinflated, just printed and printed and printed and printed. So, I mean, I'm just like, it's truly a house of cards. And this is like that moment, like, okay, people like you and myself, people watching this right now, if you are in cryptocurrency, you might have just accidentally made the best decision for you and your family. You know what I mean? You just never know, because if all of that comes tumbling down, if a World War III was to break out, what's going to be worse than the actual battles is going to be the chaos that breaks out, because the entire economical system is going to collapse.
Yeah, global trade will stop almost overnight if the major superpowers go to war. And God hopes that a war doesn't happen, but the thing is, if an economic collapse happens, it drastically increases the chance of military conflict happening. We can see right now. I mean, a lot of theorists look and think, well, what we're seeing right now with the United States sort of global, military reach and occupation of different countries and things like this is actually the end stages of empire, when it's classical empirical overstretch, and they're spending all this money, going into massive debt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the end of empires is never a clean thing. It's not like, well, we're done with our empire, we're all finished now. It's usually a very violent and prolonged process. And a debt crisis where at some point, China, Japan, different EU partners, they're not going to be lining up out the door to buy those American bonds anymore. And we've already seen moves where China's taking a little less interest, Japan's taking a little less interest. In fact, Japan, they got out of a bunch of bonds recently, and they said, no, it's okay, we're not anti-US bonds or anything like that. But it's like, but you guys are getting out of the bonds, like that's what you're actually doing right now. And so there will be a point when people won't want them anymore. And it's really fascinating to see how the U.S. has become the most in debt country in the world, and it's just based off this quantitative easing and fiat system and all these things, whereas you have other countries which are the total opposite. Countries like China are the biggest savers in the world. Russia is number 2 behind them. And it's really fascinating to see that they're all about saving money and then lending it out to people, whereas the U.S. is just about spending money and borrowing more. And that's that system doesn't work. It's so broken. I want one quick anecdote for you, and then I want to get your take on this. But I remember reading a story a long time ago, and I don't know what the current situation like is in China now. But when the credit card companies first went to China, they failed terribly because they couldn't convey to the average Chinese person why they would want to take more money than they have and then pay more money back for that money. It just didn't compute for them. And so like when Visa first went to China, they failed terribly and had to like totally rethink their strategy and, try and launch debit cards and all these different things. But it just shows the difference in mentality, I suppose.
Um, that doesn't surprise me because I mean, if you look at look at the Chinese, look at how they live. If you look at the population as a whole, okay, yes, every population, however where you go, has a 1%. That's just a fact of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of a healthy ecosystem, right? You always got to have a 1%. Just like, and every time you have a rich, you have poor. But if you look at how they live, in almost any part of Asia, even in Japan, okay, go to Japan even, they don't like to live. They don't take more than what they need. Look at their houses; they're very meager. They don't have more square footage than what they need. You go to Japan, you can have a cube apartment. You know what I mean? A literal cube where your bed folds into the wall, your kitchen folds into the wall. You have a cube. They don't complain. They're happy with it. Some say, oh, it's because of space limitations. But for them, it's like, well, this is what I need. In China, they're very much what I need. I don't know. It's such a different culture. You see, the credit cards, that whole credit card, that debt cycle is a trap. It really is. It's too tempting. That's greed is always the biggest. It's always the biggest trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the credit card model, what really bothers me is they're trying really hard to bring that into cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
They're trying so hard to bring that credit card model, and I think 2019 might be the year you might really see a harder push for that, especially if we start breaking 10K. I'm 10K. I keep thinking in my mind, it bothers me because it's really going to catch a lot of attention. And it worries me if we start seeing companies trying to do credit cards and create debt. It's the cryptocurrency ecosystem is a lot like the Chinese people ecosystem. I mean, let's not bury ourselves here. We know what we got. We know what we got to pay, and let's focus on that.
That's it. If you have a Bitcoin, well, that's how much Bitcoin you have to spend. Yeah. You don't have, you can't just, I'm going to take an extra Bitcoin and then go buy 2 cars because I want a second one. That doesn't happen. Right. It's either you have the Bitcoin or you don't have the Bitcoin. It's the classic idea of sound money, right?
It's very delusional. It's very, very delusional. And that is one of the things, this conversation we're having right now is one of the reasons I am so drawn to cryptocurrency. With credit-based systems, the trust-based system, you are in an ecosystem where there's virtually zero accountability, and you can argue this from the bottom to the top. If I'm a debtor right now, I have a credit card and I decide I'm not going to pay it. Well, guess what? What's the worst that can happen to me? Affect my credit report? They can't. I can always file for bankruptcy and start over again, or I can go get another credit card, max it out. You know what I mean? Or I can take your credit card, max out, and never pay it again, but I still have my cash in my bank. There's no accountability for mismanagement. There's zero accountability for mismanagement, and I feel that creates such an unhealthy ecosystem. The entire ecosystem. Whereas with cryptocurrencies, if you screw up, that's it. You don't get it back.
Mm-hmm.
Get what you have. What you get is what you got. That's it. You lose it, it's gone. You mismanagement, it's gone. You mistrade it, it's gone. And a lot of people might think I'm crazy for being so attracted to that, but I truly love the idea of you eat what you kill kind of thing. It sounds harsh, but to me that adds such a discipline and adds such value to what you have and what you do. And then even as a person, when you have that much accountability, if everybody in the United States were to have the same level of accountability with their money as you do with cryptocurrency, overnight, I guarantee you, things would change.
Well, and think about that at a federal level. Imagine if the government, you said, hey, you guys have 500,000 Bitcoin to spend this year, right? Well, what if we want to spend 600? You just don't have it. We can just print. No, you can't just print more Bitcoin. You can print more fiat money, and you do every year. But with Bitcoin, it's not. It's totally different, right? You actually have to
You
Stay
have to
within
say, all right,
us.
somebody's taking a pay cut.
That's right.
You have to throw those words out there. That's like blasphemy right now. Pay cut. You know what I mean?
This is why we can't have nice things, little Johnny. Uh, Hey, I want to get you
Yeah.
before we finish this chat. I really want to get your thought on IEOs. This has been so popular recently. We just saw multivac over on KuCoin. It sold out in 7 seconds. There were 16,000 people trying to get in. 1,600 people got in the end. I imagine when this hits the secondary market and starts trading, it's probably going to go, 2 or 3x or 4x or something like that. So, what do you think about the IEO thing? I know we said earlier, well, we're not in 2017 where we had the big ICO boom, but the IEO boom that we're kind of seeing currently has returned a lot of money already for investors. I mean, do you think that this boom is going to continue moving forward? Is the IEO the new ICO essentially?
There's so many ways you can look at it. I believe IEOs, if they continue to operate the same way that they're operating right now, I believe that these exchanges are risking a massive failure. I'll give you a good case in point. Bitmain, right? Bitmain got really comfortable with being the mining giant, and they did a lot of things out of greed. They mismanaged a lot of things. They wanted more money, so Bitmain was instrumental in Bitcoin Cash.
Mm-hmm.
2018 nearly destroyed him. I feel like the IPO was a hedge, just in case. You know what I mean? I feel like these exchanges, when you have money that's that easy, I feel like these exchanges, first off, are going to risk failure. I just can't really see a scenario where that won't eventually run into failure. You cannot have a system where you overinflate everything. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of these projects. I'm not saying these projects aren't bad projects, but are these projects actually worth what they're coming out for?
Well, that's a good question.
That's my first concern. Second concern is the investor. How many, and we talked about this already, I guarantee you, right? And we both agree on this. 90% of the people that bought in a multivac or seller or any of these other IEOs probably have zero idea how it works, who the team members actually are. Where are they going? When is it going to be listed on the exchange? I guarantee most of them don't even know what's happening. They're just like, I need to buy it, I need to get in it because everyone else is making money, so I need to make money too. So that greed creates ignorance. Ignorance equals getting wrecked. I just feel that model right there, even though they bought early, again, we've seen it with ICOs. Just because you bought early on a long enough timeline, that can still bite you in the you know what. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? We've seen it with the ICOs.
And
I
the greed factor is really big too for the exchanges because they're making money every IEO they list, right? They're making probably millions of dollars. And that's a real driving factor. This is half the reason that these exchanges are faking their volumes so they can say, look how popular we are. You don't think that they're going to start taking at least some exchanges? I mean, Binance has a strong reputation to keep. Maybe they'll keep it really, high tier stuff. Huobi and KuCoin and others, they might try and stay at the good stuff, but let's keep it real. When the budgets start getting tight, they're going to say, oh, that's kind of a shady ICO, but screw it. Let's just put it on because we're going to make $1 million.
Well, as I say, like I was saying earlier, I believe that Binance probably has this well thought out. I believe this whole year they already have an agenda. I would be surprised if they don't already have this year planned for the IEOs. The other exchanges, KuCoins, Huobi, and there's another one out there trying to do IEOs also.
Like
I
everybody's
believe
doing it now. All the major exchanges are doing it. If
it's
they're not doing it yet, they're doing it soon.
it's a game of catch up at this point. They see two things. Wow, they're making a killing off of this, and man, their coin is pumping as a result of these IEOs. It's a cash cow. It's truly a cash cow. And another thing that these IEOs are not thinking about is the market gets excited for a really short amount of time. And then they have these projects. Okay, so they got these IEOs, and then these projects exist. Now these projects are going to be quickly forgotten about because no one really cared about them in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they're setting up these. It's almost like I believe it could actually be a kiss of death. Let's put it that way. On a long enough timeline, it will be a kiss of death because after it's done, they sell off their coins. They don't care for it anymore. They didn't buy it because they didn't believe in it. So how are they actually benefiting the project? They have a lot of money in their pocket. Okay, great. But just because you have money and now you have no adoption, what are you going to do with that? So, I mean, these greedy models, for lack of a better word, I mean, it's pump and dump.
I think part of it too is because they know that the people who buy it are often not even going to research the project, that they're not there to be community members or use the tokens or any of this kind of stuff. This is part of the reason why we've seen actually very small percentages being available. I mean, 3% of the tokens are available, or 6% or 5% or something like that. Whereas the people who do actually care and are more invested, they get on the private sale. They're the venture capital funds and all these people who have token lockup terms and things like this. So, but that still doesn't build, this big wide-reaching community for you. If you have a bunch of venture capital funds who are holding on to the tokens, well, that's great. It might provide better long-term price stability, but it doesn't actually mean that you're going to build some big thriving community. But not all these projects are necessarily concerned with that. Some of them have, a business-to-business focus and things like this. So if the retail investor is not super excited about their token, they may not care so much.
Yeah, I can see that point. But the thing that makes cryptocurrency so unique, its strength comes from the community.
Yeah.
We've not seen, and I will use Bitcoin Cash as an example. Once Bitcoin Cash lost its community, it had the backing of Bitmain, backing of a guy like Roger Ver and his team. We're talking more money than you and I and everyone watching this right now might ever see in our lifetime. You know what I mean? Yeah. Collectively, right there. That wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Now that we see the prices moving back up and the community saying, "Oh, I think I care about it again," it's 50-something, 60%. You know what I mean? So these projects, they get forgotten about, even though there's only a small percentage going out. There has not been a single instance where a crypto project was able to do anything significant without the backing of the community.
Amen to that. I can't. No, you're absolutely right. And actually, this is the strength of a lot of projects. You look at, whether it be Ethereum or Cardano or whatever, they have really big enthusiastic communities. But it only takes one time to really burn your community too. And we've seen that play out so many times with so many projects where they gave insiders preferential deals in the ICO, like, oh yeah, you don't need to worry, we're not going to do lockups or anything, we give it to you for a third of the price everyone else is going to get it for, and then they dump it on the market, everyone finds out, and the community's gone. Or they, miscommunicate. I think like Icon's a great example of a company that just didn't communicate very well with their community, and the community just got frustrated, and a lot of that community is now gone. And it's ever getting them back when there's literally thousands of different cryptocurrencies you can invest in. Why would people come back after they've been burnt? And new people will come in and new people will check those out and read about, oh, well, this thing back in the day. But it's really hard to build that community, and it's lost in an instant if you're not careful with your community. And we see that play out with Bitcoin Cash, for example.
You're going to love this analogy. Actually, what you're talking about is something I talked about in one of my videos. I refer to cryptocurrency as an abusive boyfriend. Hear me out. You might already know where I'm going at this. That's an abusive boyfriend that's going to smack you around real good and call you bad names and make you feel like the worst human being alive, like you made the worst choice ever by being with it. And then all of a sudden have a good day, a green day, and all is forgiven. You know what I'm saying?
You still have the black eye, but you're hanging out.
You're bleeding. You're damn near dead. You know what I mean? You might be missing some teeth. Literally, you might have sold your teeth to make ends meet. I don't know. Might have sold a kidney. Who knows? But that is what cryptocurrency is. It's that abusive boyfriend that just smacks you around, beats you into a corner, and then the next day, oh, come here, honey, I'll make you dinner. And all is forgiven. Oh, things will be different this time. You know what I mean? That is exactly what this is. It's that abusive boyfriend. So, I mean, all those projects. I mean, I can think of some projects right now that have made some mistakes or have done things that people know, hey, that's not good. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's going to make me rich. It's okay. You're like 50% like negative right now. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It'll be better tomorrow. I mean, that's the mentality. There's so many, and a lot of people call them fanboys. I call them abused girlfriends. I don't know.
It's the equivalent of Stockholm syndrome with some of these things, or some kind of other I don't know, mental malady, because you look at, I don't know, how, like some blockchains have been like 51% attacked multiple times, and they never fix things, or whatever it is. Like, how many times you need to be lied to before you say, hey, you know what, this coin's down 99.9%. They've missed all their deadlines. Half the team's gone, but I'm still here. It's gonna come back and be the next big thing. Like, no, it's they got you, man. They're done.
So it was another YouTuber that brought me on to learn about this. So there is, and believe it or not, this YouTuber that brought me onto this, because you watch one of my videos, he deals a lot with cults, like understand the mindset, trying to get people to recognize a cult. And he actually talks about how cryptocurrency is very cult-like, especially if you look at Twitter. So you introduced me something called the BITE model. The BITE model is basically something you can use to determine if the entity or organization that you are involved with is a cult. Okay. And a lot of these things are talking about, giving up your free thinking, changing your perception. Just so many different things. And I really, really feel like what has happened, and I'm gonna tell you right now, Bitcoin Cash. I'm gonna say Bitcoin Cash and their marketing team started this, and I think they did a great job. I have to give credit where credit is due on this. Okay, they were the very first ones to go out and pour social media with bots. We're talking Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, with these bots or people who are talking so highly and how they would give up so much and how they would fight you to the death because they believed in this, and they sold their house or this is so great because of this. Then Bitcoin Cash did that, and if you said anything bad against them anywhere, you got flooded by hundreds and hundreds of opposers. Which, of course, you check out their profiles, you're like, this doesn't look normal. But, most people don't take the time to see that. So it's influential. So the mind is getting changed. And you have people who are, and it's about 80%, I say, are bots, and about 20% are real people. And those 20%, and not all of them, but a majority of them are that group who got into this because they want to change their life. They got into this because they want something better. They got into this because they believe someone else got rich. I can get rich too. I can't afford one Bitcoin, but I can afford this one coin that's just a few cents. I can do that. I can buy 100 of that, and I'll be set for life because this group on Twitter said so. This guy on Reddit said he already made $1 million. I can do this. And now they have this group of people who want so desperately to change their lives. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because they're surrounding themselves with this cult-like perception of a coin, of an investment, and it really, it's so blinding. And then they don't realize at the point that you really start to mix your emotions in with your investment, you're no longer investing, you're gambling. You lost all critical and objective thinking, and you're risking your money. It's crazy. It
is. But this is the one thing with crypto is the emotional game, the head game. That's one of the hardest things I think in investing is actually managing those emotions, having being strategic with your investing, and actually being able to see the forest from the trees, look through those things, and it's takes a lot of time. I understand why there's a lot of people who just buy Bitcoin and that's it, because that in of itself is trying to wade through all the craziness. That's enough. That's enough. You're good. That's all you need to do. Because when you start dabbling in different communities and all these other things, like there's a lot of crazy going on. Straight up.
There is. There's a lot of crazy. And a lot of people don't understand is what they're investing in isn't a good project, so to speak. They're investing in good marketing. I don't know if you want to talk about what we talked about earlier.
Let's do it.
Okay. I have to say it. I'll say it first. No, you don't get the backlash. Tron, for instance. Okay. Oh my God, I can see the comments now. Here we go. I gotta have
the Tron inning is upon us.
Yes, I have to prepare my Twitter because I'm sure I'm going to get it on Twitter, but it's all great. Tron, like I said, I will always give credit where credit is due. You cannot call Tron a scam. You know what I mean? You just cannot. You truly cannot call it a scam. But Tron it is really good business. That is what it is. Justin Sun has taken the cult-like marketing model and he has brought it to a whole new level. And I respect him for his marketing ability. I do. He is really good. He makes sure that every single day, someplace, somewhere, Justin Sun is mentioned.
Oh
He
yeah,
makes sure you
he's
see it.
talked about constantly,
You
constantly.
know, it's and what happens. He's turned himself into a crypto messiah. And I don't know if he's trying to take himself to that level, but what happens is, again, people really desperately want to change their situation. You can buy it for a few cents. I mean, as of right now, it's what, about 2 cents. So if you tell someone who desperately wants to change their situation, there's this guy, Justin Sun, he's doing great things. By the way, he knew Jack Ma, and he's achieved all this and that. He was he was actually the Chinese ambassador for Ripple and this and that. He's doing great things. You need to buy this because it's going to change your life. People will do it because they bought it. Now they're invested in it. They need it to work. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a that marketing model. It's a money making machine, especially now they've got the Tron tether. I mean, come on, you couldn't have made that machine more perfect to make money. Bottom line, that's all that is. It's a money making machine.
Well, and for a lot of cryptocurrencies, I mean, that's why people get in, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's like I'm here for the tech, you know. But no, but seriously, the thing is what I've always said about cryptocurrencies is like the tech's amazing when you understand what's actually being built here. Like, wow, this is really amazing, revolutionary, which is exactly why it's going to make everyone so much damn money from getting it at the right time, having the right investment strategies, et cetera, et cetera. So nothing wrong with making money. I think Tron gets a lot of unnecessary hate because there are people who never updated their opinions. They still look back to things that, you know, FUD that was around a year ago and they just heard it and believed it, or they unquestioningly believe what some social media personalities say when everyone gets out there and says this is a scam. Like, the word scam is so overused in cryptocurrencies, it blows my mind. Like, every single cryptocurrency has been called a scam for multiple reasons. And this is the thing, you can look at Tron and say, you know what, I don't like those marketing tactics. It's not my thing. I don't like what they're doing, and that's fine. You can say I don't like the marketing tactics. I think it's cheesy or goofy or whatever. I get you. I understand what you're saying, but yeah, to call it a scam is just disingenuous, I think.
Yeah, I will have to say that there are so many other coins out there where you can legitimately call them a scam. You know, I mean, Tron is always going to make money. I will have to give them. That's what it is. It's a cash cow. They designed a model to constantly make money. But there's cryptocurrencies out there who will seek more money from the community and always ask more from the community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you run into those projects, they're always running and asking you for more. That's when you have to worry. But Tron, they never have to ask for anything from the community. If anything, they have projects going to them, trying to collaborate with them, trying to build with them. They did a good job. They're not going to go anywhere. Bottom line, and especially with their deep entwinement with Binance at this point too. Could you imagine what these guys are going to come out with within this year, maybe next
Oh
year?
yeah, it'll be crazy. Well, the thing is, the money makes it real, and this was the thing about Tron that I always said is like, well, it didn't matter if, you know, when they came out with the white paper, they didn't have, you know, a bunch of code written there that said we're going to develop the best blockchain in the world. None of that mattered because they were able to create so much money and so much hype and such a powerful community that they can build whatever they want. They are throwing $100 million at a gaming fund. That's more than almost anyone else. I think EOS has $1 billion on the line for, you know, their development fund, but I mean, so that makes Tron number two in terms of like the money they're throwing at you. You think they're not going to get some good games with $100 million built on top of Tron? Of course they are. They're going to have
Right.
amazing games built on, and they've already got a lot of, you know, gambling dApps and stuff, but they're not aiming at the gambling dApps. They're aiming at games that are going to be the game everyone's talking about because that's what Justin Sun does. It'll be the game, right? It'll be the game of 2020 or something like that, but it'll be big and it'll be on Tron, and people will get Tron cryptocurrency for playing that game, and the hype will build. And that's the thing, is that when you make enough money, you can make a lot of things come true. You can develop whatever technology you want. You can hire any engineers. You can do any marketing campaign. You can throw any money at investment because you have the money to do it.
You can make the world believe whatever you want them to believe too. I mean, there's nothing stopping you when you have that kind of cash flow. You know, it's absolutely crazy. And Tron, I again, this is not a shill. I don't own Tron. I'm not interested in Tron personally because I feel like that method, the method they utilize to get where they're at, is so counterproductive to the community. I feel like it's almost predatory. I really do. So, but I will have to say this as in a positive regard to Tron. When someone invests in you, your only job at that point is not to lose their money. That is what your job is. And I have to say with Tron, you can invest in them and know that he's not going to lose your money, because of the methods he uses, you know what I mean? And if you're okay with those kind of methods, if it's something that doesn't matter to you, if it's, for me as a YouTuber, I worry more about the community. I want to be a better example for the community. I want to help the community grow. I want to help the community mature. I want to influence the community to do, I guess you could say, kinder things for each other, not try to talk to each other like you just don't know what the hell you're talking about, So for me, projects like that are just, they don't fit for me, But they won't lose your money. I'll have to say that. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me, and I've been watching your channel for a long time. I don't watch every video, but you did a video a long time ago on BitConnect.
Oh yeah, the BitConnect video back in the day.
Yeah, you were sitting by your computer. You're leaning like this on your computer, real close to it, and you're like, you're like, I don't really believe in it, but they're making money. The way you're saying, you just, you kept saying, I don't believe in it, but
yeah, it's one of those things. I think I made a sort of longer video on it. It basically said something like, some people are going to make money on it until the day then they don't. Then everyone's, a lot of people are going to get burnt on that day, and that's of course what happened. The promoters made millions on it. Some of them. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. See, I don't think 2019 or 2020, I don't think that's going to be the thing. Like I said in the very beginning when we were first talking, I think the new scam, the big hustle, the one that's going to take people for their money is the exchanges. I believe exchanges are going to rob people blind 2019 and 2020 until they can't. You know what I mean? Just until they can't. I know the SEC has said stuff, but there is absolutely zero regulatory bodies anywhere on earth that is truly doing anything about these hacks.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything about it. So knowing that you can start up an exchange and say, hey, I'm not going to do any KYC, no KYC here, and we're not going to have any withdrawal limits whatsoever. Come on and trade over here. And oh, by the way, we're going to make sure that we inflate our numbers. We're going to make sure buys and sells happen around the same time, around the same volume. It's called wash trading. No one really cares, though. You know what I mean?
It's all good. You don't understand that stuff anyway. Just go here and make some money, guys.
Yes, that's the people we're going to get for, I don't know how any nicer way to say it. People are going to get suckered into that because it's easy money. You don't have to worry about regulators or taxes or whatnot. You can trade from anywhere in the world. And I really feel that's the hustle. I really feel you're going to see a lot of hacks. Exchanges just turn over. Oh, we got a letter from what such and such entity, so we have to shut down the doors. Or we have maintenance, but we're never coming back.
Or our founder mysteriously died. Whoops.
Oh, yeah.
I think you make a really, really good point. Honestly, I had this situation the other day where, most of my trading I do is on like Binance and like I keep it to the big exchanges. And I think you really see the power of things like Coinbase and Kraken and Bitstamp. They're well-established brands with great reputations and, they comply to local regulations and all that stuff. But I had to go and buy some random cryptocurrency on a random exchange. And I was signing up for this. I was just thinking like, this is a lot of trust right here. This is basically this random website where I'm going to go and send thousands of dollars of my money to buy something else and just hope that when I go to take that money out, they're going to let me do it, right? And that model. It will come to a head, and I think you're right that we will see a lot more exchanges doing that. And look, we're seeing some really big players get into exchanges like Rakuten. I don't know if you saw that story over in Japan. They're one of Japan's big, like the Amazon of Japan. And so they're a really big company. They're launching a cryptocurrency exchange actually this month. So that when you go to Rakuten Exchange that you can trust them because they're an established company with, decades of history and all that stuff. So that provides that legitimacy. And obviously Japan's oversight of their exchanges is really strict. So But when you start talking about, well, where's your exchange base? Oh, the Seychelles. Oh, really? Why'd you base it there?
Right? But it's like right now, anything that says Singapore to me says caution.
Ooh,
Coinbin,
interesting.
Coinbin, for example, is based out of Singapore,
Yeah.
right? $105 million worth of crypto disappeared from there, and no one's talking about it. Zero people were talking. I actually just made a video on that today because there's no one there to protect you when that happens.
Yeah.
$105 million worth of cryptocurrencies just up, walked away, and they told everyone on Twitter that it was because of maintenance, and they refused to admit that they'd been hacked. Meanwhile, the CEO of one of the companies whose coins was taken, the CEO of a How Do, actually did a live stream with another YouTuber saying, "Hey, yeah, 18.4 million of our coins disappeared."
Oh man, that's
And
that's
he's
crazy.
trying to draw attention to it to get some rectification. He had to suspend trading. And see, this is the other part that really bothers me, because it's not just the investors now. So he had to suspend trading on his coin. So now his coin value dropped from being a little over a cent to less than a cent. I mean, it's huge losses. And he had days where he blocked out the trading, so no trading whatsoever. But these coins, right, who are in these exchanges that get hacked and they disappear, the main reason why I could see them not wanting to leak that, it wouldn't be just the exchanges. It would probably be the coins themselves. Like, hey, don't tell anyone, because we're going to lose so much value.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Again, there's no regulatory oversight in that, but it's like the impact of these exchanges seeing this easy money is not just you and I, it's projects, and some of these projects are actually good projects. And who knows? A big enough hack could destroy a project. Theoretically
Oh,
speaking.
absolutely it could. Absolutely it could. I mean, we could look at what happened with the CoinCheck hack last year. With they got like a $500 million worth of NEM. I mean, it didn't destroy NEM by any means, but it really shook the NEM community and obviously caused temporary price dips and stuff like this. But it actually got me thinking about what you're just saying just now. Actually, with the NEM situation, it's so hard to regulate the greed of the exchanges because it was Japan. I mean, after that, Japan put in more regulations around cryptocurrency exchanges. That was actually one of the catalysts for doing that. So I guess it had kind of a good carry-on effect. But what that exchange was doing is they were harvesting NEM. So they were doing the proof of stake. So in order to do that, you have to have a hot wallet open. So they took everyone's money, put it in a hot wallet, and they were skimming that money off the top, keeping the NEM that was coming in from that. But that exposed everyone's money to this massive risk. And it's hard with exchanges to get them to mitigate those kind of risks because they're motivated by making money. The same like we were talking about with the IEOs. Of course, they're gonna start taking low quality ICOs that don't matter because they want to make money. Just in the same way that they list crap coins because they want to make money, and that's the key here. And so there will be exchanges that are straight up scams, and there will be exchanges that just have really, really bad business practices and really bad transparency. And we've already seen bad transparency and bad business practices from a whole host of exchanges. And we see new exchanges launched every day that have even worse transparency and even worse business practices. So I really understand why companies like Binance remain powerful, because they have great reputations and they've been able to maintain that reputation over time.
Right. And the thing about regulation is these projects can bounce from country to country without any problem. Binance, for instance, saw problems in their own country and they
Mm-hmm.
bolted, right? There's really
They actually moved
no,
twice because they started off in China. I think they went China, Hong Kong, Japan, then Malta. So that
yeah,
speaks for itself, I suppose.
right. But you can't really say that, Binance has never, while we can call Binance an entity that's a cash cow, someone to call it pump and dump. They're not going to run away with your money, though. They don't need to. They can make it other ways. But we have these other exchanges that are going to try and steal your money. Doesn't work out here. Let's just bounce here. Or, okay, we had this exchange here. We went ahead. We dried people out. Let's make a new exchange. Let's go to a different country, though. It's a perpetual cycle of theft. Now, I have a question for you. Speaking of foreign countries, cryptocurrencies offers all of us, you and I, the ability to transact 24/7, 365 days without anyone stopping us, right? How do you feel? How do you feel cryptocurrency is going to affect countries that have sanctions against them?
I think it's going to be a godsend for these countries, and I've made a lot of videos about it. I'm personally totally against the international sanctions regime because it's almost always played out on, you know, political control and racism and all the rest of the stuff. You know, it's never about what they say it is.
Right.
But I actually think that there was a story yesterday. I don't know how true it is. It was from this guy, Vladislav Ginko. He's a political commentator in Russia. And he came out and said that he has good info that major Russian companies and some major Russian billionaires have been quietly acquiring massive amounts of Bitcoin because they fear that increased U.S. sanctions will start drastically affecting their ability to do business in the near-term future. This is the oil companies. This is, basically any Russian company doing international trade with whoever, right? And actually just 2 or 3 days ago, we saw that Russia is signing up to China's SWIFT network. So China is launching a competitor to SWIFT, and Russia's signed on board with that. So I haven't got too deep into that story. I need to read up about it some more, but that was the headline that I saw. And it's perfect because Bitcoin can't be stopped. And there will be people who don't like that. There will be people who say, well, I don't agree with those people being able to get money. But censorship resistance is a powerful thing because right now the current financial system is a censorship system. You're either allowed in or you're not allowed into that system. And if you're not allowed into that system, you get crushed. And that's not how the world economy should work in 2019, but it's how it still works. That's why we see countries like Germany, who is tired of being dictated to by like the United States, because the United States will tell Germany, we don't want you buying Russian oil. We don't want you doing business with Iran. And Germany's saying, who the heck are you to tell us who we can or can't do business with? We want to sell, computers to Iran and we want to buy oil from Russia. You don't have anything to do with that, but the US does because they control the banking system. And that's a broken system without a doubt.
I have to agree with you there. Here's my concern. We have cryptocurrencies like XRP, right?
Mm-hmm.
They plan on facilitating these cross-border payments and replacing SWIFT using Ripple's platform. Here's my concern: is if we ever get to that point, right, to where we're utilizing a crypto-based platform, and these international or these foreign countries that do have sanctions put against them decide, you know what, we can get around this. All we got to do is buy the XRP token, buy Bitcoin, whatever it is. I wonder that once it becomes well known, because I have no doubt that places like North Korea, Iran, I know Iran for a fact, it's got a big OTC market. But once it really starts getting known that entities like this can buy or exchange goods and services with a different kind of currency and they can't be stopped, it makes me wonder which country, is it going to be America, more than likely America, it's going to be Europe, who's going to say, hey, listen, we have these rules we set in place and these people aren't following these rules, so we need to shut this down now, somehow, some way. In my mind, if there's ever an international effort to shut down and stop cryptocurrencies, in my mind, that's where it would come from. It's because of the fact that countries that aren't supposed to be transacting or receiving goods and services and exchanging a currency for it are now able to. And in my mind, that would be the only situation that would call for an international effort to stop cryptocurrencies.
It would be interesting because I look at that and I think that that's potentially the very event that would send Bitcoin like astronomical. Because literally overnight, what you would have is you'd have countries like China and Russia, and potentially you'd have breakaway countries in the European Union who would say, we don't know. We're not getting on board with that. You're telling us we can't do business with Russia anymore? That's our biggest trading partner. We're no. And you will have people who start dissenting. And that could be like a next level trade war because, yes, they will want to try and shut that down. And see, right, the thing right now is Iran doesn't have a lot of friends except, really Russia, China, and Pakistan, right? And, some European countries are kind of friendly with Iran. But people don't really care about them as much. When you try and cut like Russia out, that's like the European Union's biggest trading partner, or second biggest trading partner maybe, but definitely some countries within the European Union, they're their number one trading partner. And the sanctions that were passed previously against like agricultural imports and things like that, they devastated some European farmers. That was coming from Washington, bankrupting European farmers. I mean that they don't want that to continue. So this could actually be, in a weird way, a net positive. But I got to say, if any cryptocurrency is going to kind of roll over and comply with regulators around international sanctions and stuff, it's going to be XRP. Well, let's keep that real.
They have to. I mean, that's what their business model is. They have no choice. If you want to replace SWIFT, right? If you want to replace the SWIFT system, you have got to comply with international financial law. You have zero choice in that. That is what you have to do. If you're not willing to do so, then you'll never replace SWIFT. That is what makes SWIFT so powerful, is because at any point, the United Nations, European Union, or federal government can say, hey, we have a sanction against this country, you turn SWIFT off. They cannot transact. They can do that. You can literally flip a switch. Well, how do you do that with something that's open source and decentralized? It's supposed to be. Sorry, supposed to be open.
Well, the thing with XRP is it all works via the banking partners, right? So could someone send XRP to someone in Iran? Yes, of course they could, but it wouldn't really matter because there's no banks who are going to want to work with that. And then, of course, they could just start blacklisting addresses. They could say, oh, we figured out that XRP has gone into Iran, so we're going to send across the network nobody except a deposit from this person, right? So that is a very real thing. With Bitcoin, it's a lot harder. I mean, they can blacklist Bitcoin addresses. I know that some Bitcoin addresses have been blacklisted before, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to get that Bitcoin moved around, and that there's no bank entity which is running this, right? That's the big difference with Bitcoin, is that there's no partners, middlemen, because XRP kind of recreates a lot of the middlemen because they rely on their banking partner network, right? And we're trying to remove the middlemen, not create a better system for the middlemen. I can see the value in creating a better system for the middlemen, but screw the middlemen,
Right. And then again, that is the beauty of cryptocurrency. I can transact 24/7, 365, and nobody can tell me how I can spend money, where I can spend my money, or how much money I can spend before I have to tell this other jabroni, hey, do I owe taxes on this? You know what I mean? It's just like, no, I feel like it's a God-given freedom, if you believe in such a thing, that I should be able to buy, spend, and live like how I want, This makes me think of that article. Have you ever read the story from the Crypto Time Traveler?
A little bit, but no, I've seen like some posts of someone. Anyway, go ahead.
It's fascinating because he talks about, oh God, someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but that at some point in the future, those who have the most wealth in cryptocurrency create like their own, God, I can't really call it citadel. I think it's a citadel, a city, a place, a country where they separated themselves from the rest of the world. You know what I mean? Because they had more wealth than all the other fiat, billionaires could combine. So they just kind of went to themselves, created their own ecosystem. And I could actually, the more we talk, I could actually see something like that happen. I mean, it actually semi is happening right now in Puerto Rico. I know a lot of miners, especially that are really wealthier miners, are Puerto Rican residents because of the fact that there's no capital gains taxes down there. So it's I don't know.
Everybody likes nice warm places too. So
yeah, that's right. Nice warm places, tropical, drink a mojito.
That's it.
But
when we started this conversation, I was like, we'll go for 30 minutes or something. We're like an hour and 20 minutes in or something here. So I think let's cut the conversation there. This has been super fun though. I hope that everyone out there in the audience, if you're still with us, congratulations guys. You guys are super awesome. Definitely appreciate you coming out and listening to Kristof and I just throwing ideas back and forth talking about crypto. I mean, this is just, I love these kind of conversations because it's just two dudes talking about cryptocurrencies on the internet, it's just having fun, and that's super awesome. By the way, there's a link down below. So if you haven't subscribed to his channel yet, go and check it out. There's a link down below, so make sure you check that out, guys. And thank you so much for coming on the channel, man. That's been super fun.
Yeah, thank you. It was a lot of fun. Let's do it again sometime.
For sure.